Hello friends, welcome to Squared Plans. I'm Stephanie and today we're going to be doing a flip through of my 2021 Faith Planner After the Pen. So I'll be showing you guys all of my completed spreads from January through December from 2021 and hopefully giving you guys some ideas for your own planners. So if that sounds good, let's get started. First off, I want to mention that the cover, the dividers, and the currently pages in this planner are all from a box set that I bought a while back from the Happy Planner. It was an undated vertical planner, and since I had trouble using the vertical planner in my routine, I just struggle with that format. I decided to replace out the vertical guts with my own planner from my shop in Etsy. So you'll see it's a quadrant layout from my shop along with the monthly spread, and then the rest, the currently is, like I said, the dividers and the cover are all from the Happy Planner box set I mentioned before. So I just really fell in love with the design of this planner and really was happy that I was able to use at least most of the planner itself in some fashion for my planning. So the first spread, or the first area you're going to see here, is the cover page from that planner, and I went ahead and pinned in my name. And next we have the first kind of divider currently spread that I would use each morning for my prayer list. I just really loved the aesthetic of this planner, like I mentioned, so I would every morning kind of come to this page to begin, do my prayer list. I'd also throughout the month fill in this currently section and my spiritual goals, as well as this little grateful for area. And the only real place I would cover up here is the birthdays area, since I didn't really keep track of birthdays on this page. What I decided to do instead was, sometimes I would use it for separate prayer lists or cover it up like you see here. So this was the very first spread, and again, just really love the aesthetic throughout. So this is the monthly from my shop, and for the very first month, I decided to do an Attributes of God spiritual reading. Each month, I try to mix things up as far as how I'm using my monthly layout. I had done that in 2020, and I carried that through in 2021. So this one, what I decided to do was actually write out the kind of guide, the spiritual reading guide, and I did it in pencil first, and then as I completed the reading, I would pen it in the appropriate color. So that's how I managed this, and then I would do, just kind of read it each day as part of my routine. I also pick out usually 2 colors plus black to work with for each month, as you'll see. I believe these were the 2 colors I decided to go with for the very first month. And I also pre-plan, or I basically set up the entire month ahead of time. So when I did my plan with me's, I would do both the monthly layouts and the weekly layout all for January or whatever month I was in. And that just made it a lot easier just to get right to the meat of what I needed to do each morning with the planning. Okay, so this again is how it turned out. And this was my first week in the quadrant layout, like I said, from my shop. So I was a little bit nervous on how to use it. I also was trying to incorporate more brush lettering in my routine, since all in 2020 I had done monoline lettering, which was a really good thing for me. It really helped me nail down how I wanted my letter forms to look, but I had no practice with a brush tip pen. So what I decided to do is to, again, try this quadrant layout so I'd have a little more room to do more brush lettering and see how I liked it. And as you can see, the very first week was a little bit rough. I decided to just kind of skip these first days and start right on the first of the month. I really didn't have a good plan. I tried to keep things simple the first month until I got my groove, so you can kind of see that. I also was trying to brush letter with a couple of pens that didn't really work that well, I will say, as I went through. I tried to figure out what would work. I did have a brush pen from Zebra that I just had in my stash. That wasn't too bad, but it was a little bit soft, so I was having a hard time getting the thinner strokes in the beginning. And then I was also trying to use my Twi markers, which I mention a lot on my channel. They are from Arteza, and that's what I use for all of the colored pens that you'll see each month. I usually pick 2 of these matching colors into whatever I'm using, or whatever the decor is for the month. And then I would usually use the smaller tip for the fine lettering. And I tried using this brush tip for actual brush lettering in the beginning, but I found that these were way too soft and a little bit too loose as far as the bristles, so they did not work well, especially for a beginner brush letterer. But they worked great, you know, since the beginning, since I got them for the other types of lettering in my planner, which you'll see as I go through. And so I really do still love this set I got. It's very useful and I use it a lot in my planner, and they don't bleed through or anything, so really great set. But like I said, when I started, I didn't realize I needed a particular plan, which I'll mention as we go through, to really help me practice my brush lettering in my planner. So in the beginning, this is how it came out. Very rough, as you can see. And here's my first real solid spread where, you know, I was able to do all of the lettering that I was planning. And I guess I haven't mentioned, what I do is I use a app called YouVersion, and it has a verse of the day fed in each day. So I use that both for my Bible reading, and then I also get the verse of the day each day from that. And then what I was doing is just trying to letter, or, you know, practice my lettering skills at the same time by lettering in the verse each day. So that's the main way I was using the weeklies for the entire year, just doing a verse of the day, lettering that, and practicing my lettering skills. So you can see again, there's the 2 colors. I use that brighter blue and then kind of more of the more blue-gray toned blue, along with this black pen, that Zebra pen I mentioned before, that I was really struggling with in the beginning, as you can see. All last year I had worked more on my monoline lettering, which looks more like this. I really got that to a place I was really happy with, and was trying to transition that into that brush lettering. The first couple of days was a little bit rough, but got a little bit better. I started to get a little more creative down here at the bottom and get more into a groove on how I wanted this to look. So this starts to really formulate my style for the rest of the year. And then here is the second week, I guess, or I guess the third week. And here I was actually trying to do like a memory verse each week, which was okay, but I did find it a little bit cumbersome to do. As I go through, I start using this area, the this week area, for more decor, but the first month I decided to try memory verses. And that's a good option if you are trying to memorize a verse, having it there each time you look at your planner for the week, and then do like, you know, whatever you need to do to help you memorize it. So it was a good technique. It just was another thing I needed to do. As I go through, I just kind of tried to trim down the amount of work I had to do in the morning to make things a little bit simpler. So again, this is how the next week turned out. As you can see, my lettering styles started to vary a little bit. I kind of went back to my monoline lettering since I was having trouble with the pens, trying to get them to work with the thick thin for the beginning. So most of them look a little bit more clean on here because I didn't use as much of the brush lettering. But overall, I thought it turned out pretty good, and then the doodles and things really helped. I like to vary my lettering styles, so you'll see that throughout. I have, you know, like all caps, regular case, some would be like with serifs, some with lower crossbars, some with higher crossbars, tall, fat, skinny, you know what I mean? So I try to vary each one to also take into account what I'm reading and kind of tie that in as well. And here is the next week in January. Again, sticking to the two colors, that's always a good thing. It really helps keep things feeling consistent throughout the month. And very minimal design on this one as far as the decor for the month, because again, I wasn't really sure how this was going to play out. So things started to get a little bit more decorative as we go through. Also too, I believe this is the week, maybe here or here is when I got my new brush pen, which had made a huge difference. So if you are starting out with brush lettering and you want to try it in your planner in this smaller format versus like, where you could just do giant words, I highly recommend this Tombow Fudenosuke brush tip in a hard tip. It's really, really great. It's just a small brush tip, but it allows you to get a really nice thick stroke if you want it, and a very thin stroke if you want it in a small format. It made a huge difference to my lettering, and I got a lot better really quick with this pen. As you can see, kind of the difference. I believe, again, this one was from the older pen, and I think this was the newer, and you can just see it. It made a huge, huge difference in my opinion. So highly recommend one of these pens. They're usually linked below in the description of my planner videos. Do check them out. They're one of my favorite things. Highly recommend these pens for beginner brush letterers or any kind of brush lettering, if you're advanced or whatever. They're really great pens. So once that kind of came on the scene, you'll see things got a lot better, and it really helped me refine my brush lettering a bit. And then this was the last week of January. Again, basically the same thing. You're going to see pretty much everything's going to look very consistent going forward. I have my verse that I'm trying to interpret what I'm reading as I do it. So sometimes there's doodles, and then sometimes there's just like word call outs. And yeah, so it was a little rough, like I said in the beginning, with the brush lettering. Sometimes I had a good day, sometimes I didn't. I didn't do anything in particular to really practice, drills or anything like that. I just kept doing the brush lettering and working on technique as far as thick thin from what I'd seen done by other lettering experts, and just try to make it work for me. And so my technique is not perfect. It is definitely not probably the way that most people would start with lettering and trying to get the real mechanics of it. But for me it worked, and I still think I have a bit of a rough technique down. It's not perfect by any means as far as being consistent, but it's working for me, so I enjoy the lettering quite a bit now. Again, so here is this last week, and then what I was doing was actually gluing together the back page to the currently pages for the next month so that it would have a seamless turn. But actually on the back of the currently is like a vertical, the last week of the vertical planner that I mentioned that I got rid of those guts. So I have that, and then at the very beginning I was doing a different sheet. So this one actually has 3 sheets all stuck together, but I kind of figured that out a little bit later down the road how I wanted that to look, and so it gets cleaned up farther down. So that's the end of January, and we're moving into the first currently spread here going into February. What I did, again, very same setup each time. I've got my prayer list here. Start adding in some prayers specific for me down here at the bottom, and I used a sticker to kind of help me, write in my prayer list, if you will. But everything else is the same. The currently items, the spiritual goals, the grateful for, and then again, just kind of had this verse to look at each morning. For February, I decided to do a faith and fitness challenge, and I see some pencil mark. I'm going to see if I can erase that. Yeah. Faith and fitness challenge. And what I did, I found again on Pinterest a challenge that I wanted to do, struggling with my weight a little bit, and decided to try to incorporate it more into my faith, just like start praying about it, hoping that I could get some answered prayers and some assistance. So I found this challenge and I thought it would be a really good thing for me to try out for the month. So what I decided to do again is kind of preload the verse reading for each day, and those were really focused in on God helping you and your ability to overcome problems, and not problems, overcome challenges, if you will, in your life, including like if you have trouble, getting fit or whatever, that you could do it. So that was nice. It just kind of kept me focused on what I could do. There was only, I guess, a few readings each day, and then there was an empty day. So occasionally I moved it around, I think, if I recall correctly. It's been a while. It looks like there was 6 days, and then there was like a day off, I think, from both the faith and the fitness. So I just kind of did something to kind of tie that in. Again, I had pre-decorated the whole month, so that's all set up in the same format, so everything will look very consistent. And I used this kind of darker green and this peachy tone throughout as well for my color scheme. And so here was how the first week turned out. And again, you can see there's a lot more decor on this one. So I had to do more of a like 4-corner kind of design, trying not to take up too much room in the meat of the week so that I would have plenty of room to do my lettering. I started to really find my groove here in February, getting the lettering down a little bit better, and again, just trying to interpret the verse as best I could with the lettering, as well as practicing those brush strokes and getting better at that. And so here's how the second week turned out. As you can see, I kind of did a little decorative area, usually faith-based here in this week. Added some washi this month as well, which I really like that little pop of color. And trying some doodles here and there in these, which was kind of fun, just trying out some things. I'm not very good at doodling. I usually have to have some kind of reference to look at to really get a decent doodle. So the ones that turned out the best, like this turned out pretty good, and then this one turned out pretty good, I probably went and looked online for some inspiration. So this was the next week in February. And here is the third week. Again, very consistent, as you'll see as we go through. Just doing that verse of the day and practicing different styles of lettering. And the fourth week, what I do is just moving some eraser. I pencil it in first, so I get an idea of how I want it to look with a pencil first, making sure that all the letters fit and what have you, and then I go back with those pens I mentioned, the Arteza pens, as well as the Fudonosuke brush tip pen after the fact. So I have it penciled in and I have a guide. That way it just looks a little cleaner and I know it's going to fit the way I intend it to fit. I add the felt tip micron marker in at some point. I really don't remember when I started using this guy, but it will start to come in, as you can see. I think this might have been one, or this could have still been the Arteza black version of the Twi marker. But at some point I introduced this because I was using the black a lot and I didn't want to use all of the Twi marker on its own. So I bought these, and these are really clean and erase almost immediately. Same with the Twi markers. They really don't take long to dry up, so you can, erase pencil marks pretty fast without any smearing, which I love. I guess let me pull those out so you guys have them for reference. So the three main pens that I used were this Pigma, the Tombow, and a Twi marker. So that's how most of these spreads were made. And I'll just put them there so you guys can see. Okay, so I have those down there, and this was the last week in February. So we've moved on to the March currently. Just wonderful aesthetic. A few stickers here on my prayer list, again to cover up the birthday section, and really not much else to report. It's nice to fill this out each month, get a look back at how I was doing spiritually, and then also just kind of what was on my mind and who I was praying for. So for the March spread, what I decided to do was a fasting reading. That was kind of coming into effect because I had started intermittent fasting back in 2020 and just thought I would do some research on fasting in the Bible and why they fasted and see if there was any application to my own life at the time, because I was fasting, doing more of a like 16 hours fasting per day, 8 hours eating, that kind of, intermittent fasting, daily fasting, versus some of the descriptions of the different types of fasting that they did in the Bible, which was kind of nice to get an overall view of how they used it and when. So this reading was really good, and like I mentioned before, if there's any of these particular readings that you're looking for, go back to my Plan With Me. I have a playlist, a faith playlist. Go back to March's Plan With Me, and I tried to link the actual study or whatever I was using directly in that video's description, so you can grab it from there if you're interested. So this one really turned out good. I had set it up in a rainbow. I like to do rainbows in March. Sorry if my voice is a little bit weird. I'm coming down from a cold, so I have a lot of, scratchiness in my throat, unfortunately. So hopefully I can get this out to you guys without it sounding horrible. Anyway, so what I would do is kind of summarize the reading above, and then I would write in the readings on top of the little prompt sticker there. And I had set up the prompts ahead of time, the stickers, so it just turned out really cute. I really liked this rainbow color scheme, and yeah, just overall it was a really nice decor. And since I was doing that rainbow across, I added in the rainbow washi and some rainbows from, I don't remember which book I grabbed those from, but this was a really kind of cute, fun one. I picked two colors again. Instead of doing like a rainbow and just making it super colorful, I just stuck with two colors. Try to stick with colors that will look good in writing. I found that when I used like yellow, sometimes the lettering was hard to read, that kind of thing. So I chose two colors that I thought would look cute, but also kind of be easy to use in multiple applications versus, something too light or too dark. And as you can see, I mixed it up I started just to do some monoline lettering when I felt it, brush lettering when I felt it, not always doing the same. I also brush lettered and then wrote over it with the Twi markers occasionally, and that really helped, me see if there was any skill practice that I was getting better at with these really soft brushes, which I just found that were really hard to work with. So that never really got any better. Again, just doodling, having fun with it. I did try to, again, keep things kind of minimal as far as decor, so I'd have plenty of room for the actual lettering. And here's how the second week turned out. Again, just really nice to practice and have some fun with it. And here is the third week. I did try to, again, keep things kind of faith-focused in the decor when I can. Just depended on what stickers I had at my disposal. So some months are more faith focused than others, but I think overall it turned out pretty good and kept me really interested in being in the spreads. And here is, I think, the 4th week in March. And I really liked the brush tips of those twine markers for these more solid colored areas. So there really is a benefit to having that brush pen on the other side. It really, is great for coloring in, as you can see in this area. But I did use the finer tip for the most part for any of the lettering. So that is the last spread of March, and we're into the April currently spread here. Really same setup, so these things really don't change. The only main variation you're going to see throughout is going to be the monthly layouts. That's where I did a lot more of my experimentation and trying new things throughout the year. And then there's some construction outside, so I just want to bring that to your attention in case you can hear it. Hopefully it will go away soon. Anywho, here is the April prayer, I guess, challenge that I did. I'm trying to see what I did for actual, oh, I see. So this one I did the Acts prayer calendar, which was basically a way to pray and break down your prayers so you were praying for different people. I'd like to do those prayer challenges where they make you think about praying for people outside of your sphere. So I definitely tried that and enjoy doing those types of challenges. So this one, each one of these letters I think stands for a different section here that I have listed. This was all pre-written by whoever did the prayer calendar. And I may have modified a couple of them that didn't quite, go with me as far as like maybe praying for kids or that kind of thing. But usually it would be praying, the name of God. And then each one of these, I believe, breaks down like this would be a commandment. I would put in a gratitude. I can't remember what T stood for. And S would be like maybe supplication. I don't remember now what these two, with all four of these stood for. However, I did do this, and again, if you want to see the real details of it, because I'm doing a bad job explaining it, check out that Plan With Me video. So I basically prayed for all of these as I went through the month. I just kind of again used the same color scheme that I had set up for the month, and this is how it turned out. So for this one, again, I did the pre-decorating for the entire month in the same theme. So I put some florals down here in the center, which kind of will butt up against some of the Friday and Saturday verses. But I didn't really have a problem going around them each of those days. I kind of started getting a little bit braver with the decor, as you'll see as we go through the year, adding a little bit more into the usable space. Kept it pretty simple, color scheme, more of this kind of pink tone with the green, matching up with the florals I decided to use in the month, as well as these kind of black and white florals. And I really feel like this month I started to kind of refine a lot more with my lettering styles and getting a little bit cleaner look. So it was good to keep that practice going. And here is the second week. Again, pretty simple. Like I said, I got these florals down here at the bottom, but I was able to work around them. And the third week, really like how some of these turned out. definitely moments where I'm like, oh, that one was good, that one was good, you know what I mean? It's nice to go back and look at how things turned out for the week. And I believe this was the 4th week. Don't really have much else to mention. So most of this will just be me flipping through the rest of the weeks and bringing up the monthly layouts. And the final week. So here is the currently spread for the month of May, and just pretty much tied in some of that gold tone here helped me write out my prayer list and kind of break out my own personal prayers. I think I started doing that back when I did the Faith and Fitness Challenge I think that was in March or in February, so that really became kind of a staple of my own planning. So I wasn't really praying that much for my own needs, if you will, just praying for thanks and gratefulness, and found that I really needed to pray more for my own needs and for assistance. So here is the May health reading plan that I decided to do. So I pre-wrote in the verses that I was going to read each day for that. They were based on health, obviously, from the Bible. So again, I was trying to get back into the swing of things health-wise, and so really like having that focus on my own health. I wrote in the verses, and then what I did was just did a little summary of what I had read on top of it. So yeah, I think that's all I did. Yeah, he just kind of reiterated what I read, so I would be paying attention, and that was a nice way to do it. I also did this teacup theme from, I think these are from the Happy Illustration sticker book, and did my own verses, which you're going to see here in a second, that were tied to the Bible to kind of make it a more faith-based theme. So yeah, so I went ahead and printed my own stickers for this month, which was really cool. I did this just on my iPad, and then I printed it with my foam memo printer, and that was a nice way to get some verses that all look the same and were geared towards the teacup theme. I also picked out 2 softer colors for this month, as you can kind of see. I used like a softer purple and then this really kind of soft peach tone. Again, kind of playing off of the cups that I had there. And it's a little bit hard to read anything that I decided to use the pink tone on. Even the purple you can kind of see is pretty light. I kind of learned my lesson there with the using the softer colors, but I thought it tied the best with the overall theme. And here is the second week. And here is the third week. I definitely have days where I feel like I do a better job, and then some days where I'm just not feeling it and things don't come out quite as nice as I want them to. You know, that's just how it goes. I just wanted to keep it consistent and keep doing it every day, and so I, would do it regardless of how I was feeling about it. And I think that's good in a sense. The consistency really helps you stay on track and keep things going. And then I think this is the final week here for May. And yeah, like I said, some came out better than others. But overall, still very good. I think I'm missing a T. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm missing a T. I just saw that. I was like, strength. Good times, good times. Okay, so now we're into the June currently, and again, not much else to report. Same setup each time, and yeah, I really enjoyed this. So for this study, I decided to do the self-control scripture study, and I think this was because I was struggling with what I was eating at the time. I was eating a lot of junk food, and so I just really wanted a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help at the time with my own self-control, see if these readings would steer me in the right direction. Again, I did the prompts here at the bottom, and then I would write in the summary each day as I read it. So that was really good. And then I really liked the color scheme in this guy, the stickers and decor I decided to use, which were these watercolor florals, always one of my favorites. So I went with the yellow and the pink this week. The yellow was a little bit stronger, which was nice, but still a little light for lettering on its own. And the pink was perfect, but I really felt like those were the two colors to use based off of what the stickers had in them. The pink definitely, and then I felt like the yellow was a good match. So I have that, and then I was using those stickers from the Kind and Faith sticker book for some faith focus there. And here is the next week. And you can see I oftentimes just varied back and forth between the colors so that they're just alternating each day. And here's the next week. It was fun to get creative with just each individual verse. I love that interpretation, you know, trying to make it more powerful with the interpretation through the lettering and the doodles and everything. And here is I think the final week that I have here in the June section. Lots of good ones on this one, I thought. So now we're into July, and this is the July spread. Again, just kind of covering up the birthdays. For this month's challenge, I did just a gratitude. I think I was getting kind of busy in my life, so I wanted to keep things a little bit more simple. So I just did a gratitude every day here, no guide or study, just wrote down something I was grateful for each day and kept it simple. Did some nice, bright, colorful florals, and this is how it turned out. So this one I wanted to try doing a center decor on the spreads, and that was good, but it definitely was a little bit challenging to work around in some areas, as you'll see. And then I just did some nice positivity saying here in the this week area for color. Went with this green and pink tone for the month, and again kind of choosing a little bit darker colors to keep things easier to read if I decided to use them for lettering. And here is the second month, or second week. As far as time for doing this, morning routine, I would normally do my prayer, and that took me maybe 5 minutes or so. I would do my scripture reading, which would be after I did my Bible reading. So I do a daily reading as well each day from the YouVersion Bible app, like I mentioned before, and that kind of feeds in a 15-minute or so reading of the Bible. I believe last year I did the chronological plan, so it just goes through the entire Bible in a year in the order that the time is in the Bible, so like historical order. And then I would do a reading if I had a reading for the month soon after that, and then spend about another, I would say, 10 or 15 minutes on the verse lettering. So overall, I would say I commit maybe, half an hour to 45 minutes to faith planning in the morning, doing, all the little steps I just mentioned. So it's not too much of a commitment. I know some people do readings or do devotionals, and then they also write and journal. So it would probably take you a similar amount of time to do what I'm doing here. So it's not a huge commitment, but it does take some time. So you have to be diligent and really set aside that time each morning to make sure that you get it done, or things will get in the way. And I try to do this at different times of the day. I always forget. So I had to really prioritize it, start my day off with it so that I was on the right track and I was getting it done for that consistency. I also recommend not starting with too much. So if you're just getting into faith planning and lettering, I highly recommend, starting with one thing. So if you've never done any kind of spiritual routine, maybe just start with prayer, or maybe just start with a daily reading and pick a plan, something simple, but keep consistent and get that habit growing. And then as you feel more comfortable, as you feel like you can commit more time to something, add in other items. So I did not start off with a bunch of stuff. Like I started off with prayer way before I was doing my planner, and then I added on the daily reading, and then I added on this lettering, and then I added on the challenges, and then finally I ended up adding in my daily reading summary. I built upon a routine to grow into it. So don't overwhelm yourself. If you're new to faith planning, definitely take your time to start small and build up to your goal. Otherwise, you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. It does take time, it does take energy, so that's my best advice if you are new to faith planning and want to get started. And here is, I think, the last week of July. So we're on to August. This is the August currently page, and I liked the yellow, brought in some yellow and gold here, just to kind of tie in with the color scheme of the month. And now we're on to August's monthly theme, which was 31 amazing words. So these were amazing words, again, another challenge from Pinterest, as I recall, and they each had a reading associated with it so that you could kind of get the gist of why these words were chosen and tie it in spiritually. So I did that. Again, I used these little books in a kind of almost a gradient of color across the page, tying in with the florals I decided to use. It really turned out pretty. I really liked how this came out. And I did a little monoline lettering along with my print lettering here as well, a little extra practice. For this month, I mixed things up slightly with the colors. So I chose one color each week and decided to use that throughout for the month. So there's going to be 4 different colors I use, and I use the same pen with black each time. So here's how the first week turned out. I actually really enjoyed this, and I may have done it again once more before the year ended. And here's the second week. I wasn't a huge fan of this color, but I was really needing a nice color to tie in with the verses I had picked as well as the florals. These verses were nice just to have a little extra verse to read there and to kind of focus on for the week. Here's the second week. And this one was a really good one. This was the third week. I love this teal tone. And I believe this is the last week, and I used this pink tone. Tried my best to match up these Twi marker colors with the theme colors that I chose. Sometimes I could get one that was really spot on, some were a little bit brighter, and a little bit, you know, a little off, if you will. Not the perfect match, but I have a set of 100 of them. So for the most part, I was able to get a color pretty close to what I needed for each of the months, which really was a benefit. I had a smaller set before, and then just having those extra colors really helped beef up my possibilities as far as color schemes. So this was the spread for September, the currently spread. Really loved the colors in this one a lot, really very pretty. Again, same setup over here. So I think I was getting a little stressed out at the beginning of September. I was getting ready to start a class, as well as you know, getting my shop set up. And then I also had a few work-related items that were kind of coming at me. So I decided to do a Give It to God spread where I just wrote down the things that were stressing me out, you know, overwhelming me, and keep track of those. So I did that. Not anything to read or anything, just kind of wrote it down, simplify things a bit. I also used some rub-on transfers for this month, which was really cool, from the Dollar Tree, and mix those in with, I think these ones, these stickers were sent to me by Liz, one of my subscribers, and incorporated that, so it has a little bit of like a French feel, romantic feel as you go through. Yeah, and because of that, I was kind of limited on what colors I could use for the month, so I ended up pulling out the yellow tones from a lot of the florals and the pinks. So it wasn't a really good month, again, for writing with the colors. You know, this is actually in yellow. I don't even know if you can see it. It's pretty light, so some of them are a little bit hard to read. But overall, I think the color scheme was right. It was the right choice because of the way I had designed it and the colors I'd used with the decor. This was the next week. It's really fun using these rub-on transfers and just kind of figuring out how to lay them in. They're not necessarily faith-based in that sense, but I just thought that the romantic feels were really nice and a good way to theme out the whole month. I definitely needed to plan ahead with the decor and make sure I had enough decor in the same style to fill out the entire month. That was a little bit of a challenge sometimes, which is why not all of the months are completely faith-based. And this was the next week in September. Again, really like when I have the colors to use and bring in some bold color using the pens. That always ends up turning out pretty good. And here is the next week. I think I have one more week here in September. That's how it turned out. I also have here the last week. And again, just trying different ways to style my lettering. And here is the currently for October. This is a super light, delicate one. Really liked this one. And then this was another reading / challenge that I did in October. I think it was, yeah, Seeing God's Miracles. So I had the reading there preset, and then I would write in a summary of what I had read, what the miracles were. And it was really good. It was very focused in on the miracles of the Old Testament, which came out really nice. And then I also did a little hack here in the corner because it had 31 days and a split day so that I could write in the verse summaries for each without having to encroach upon the other one's space. So that turned out pretty well. And I'm doing some watercolor florals here. We're actually watercolored on some black and white florals for the month. And that turned out pretty good, actually. It was a little bit challenging at first, but I figured out a pretty good technique and really liked the styling. Also matched up the colors again and steered away from the yellow this time and kind of focused in on the green and the pink so I could use the pens in multiple ways. And here is the next week. I don't know what I was doing with some of these, like I think I was trying to do some flourishes. I'm really not skilled in the flourish area, so I really need some practice on that and some maybe like a little tutorial on how to do those. But everything else turned out pretty good. I think this one was a much better overall spread, like the decor and also the designs of the lettering. And I think this is the last week, yes, of October's area. Things stayed pretty consistent throughout the year. I didn't really do too much variation as far as those verses of the day, as you could see. So October was over, we're into November, and I remember being very busy with my class, so I just did not finish out filling out my currently page for that month. And that's okay. I just let it be. I was tempted to go back and fill it in, but I was just like, no, just let it be. That's how it turned out. So that, you know, just be authentic there. So I did. I left it as is, even though I really loved the design of this month, especially the colors in the photo they used, just really gorgeous. So for November, I decided to do a gratitude challenge, but instead of just writing down like something I was grateful for or something similar, I decided to do a challenge based off of collagens. And so it just took through the whole book of collagens, as I recall. So you read a little passage, and then it said to do a couple things. You had to focus on renewal and then write a key verse or phrase to remember from your reading. So I tried to do that, kind of highlighted whatever the verse was, the snippet, and then focus in on that. And that was really good. It was definitely getting me more thoughtful about what I was reading there and just kind of focusing in on the gratitude aspect of things. Oh, and then for the month, this was the other month I decided to do the multi-week colors. So I used the Dream Seeker stickers for this month with some copper highlights. Love the Dream Seeker sticker book. Even though it does have some themes in there that I'm not in love with, I really like a lot of the sticker styling in there. So I used the kind of feathers and tied it in with the leaves, copper leaves, kind of giving it a little bit of a fall feel. I pinned in a verse each day. That was okay. I think it would have been better had I printed something out again on my foam memo printer. But that's how it turned out. I picked a color and then I used that throughout the month. Or throughout the week, excuse me. And here I did this one with more of the brown tones. This month actually turned out really nice, even though it was a busy month. And then this one was green. And I believe this is the final week, yes, of November, and I did this purple tone. Again, pulling those colors from the florals I decided to use. So we're at the last month here for December, and this is the layout for the currently. And again, I went more simple for December, still in the midst of my class, so I did a thankful thoughts spread, just for the holidays and the, warm feels for the holiday season. I used a sticker book I got from Michael's called Holiday Spice. I really enjoyed and kind of just brought in some holiday Christmas feels along with this kind of thankful area for the month. So no reading, just writing down things I was thankful for throughout each of the days. And I went with more of a traditional red and green theme, but kind of more muted for my color scheme, tying into those stickers. So this is how this week turned out. And then the second week. And the third week. And the fourth week. I like that in the app around certain holidays like Passover or Christmas time, they start to add in verses that are geared towards whatever that holiday is. That's a little bit nice. You can kind of focus in on that and tie it together visually. And this is the final week. That is the end, you guys. So a full year of verse lettering and monthly challenges and prayer lists and currently layouts, the whole nine. I am really happy with the way that the year turned out. I definitely feel more comfortable with brush lettering and my own lettering styling. So highly recommend that if you're interested in learning to letter and also wanting to grow more spiritually, spending more time in the Word. That is how I'm doing it here in my planner, and it's been a blessing and a joy. So highly recommend it if you can fit that into your schedule. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Also go ahead and leave me a comment if you'd like to get in touch, and think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye!